Hey everybody, I'm Chris Greene and you're tuning into AMTV, Alternative Media Television. The President of the United States and the CDC, the head, Tom Frieden, were so optimistic about the progress of the first known infected patient at a Dallas hospital potentially recovering from Ebola, Mr. Thomas Eric Duncan. Speaking to this yesterday, the unlikely event, so optimistic about his recovery, and he was doing so well that today, on Wednesday, October 8th, he croaked. He died. He's the first person to die in America, at least that we know of so far, that's been reported on by the useless bullshit mainstream media giants, corporate giants, whore bags like CNN. He was doing so well that he died. Again, all of this was in the world of unlikely events, according to the president months ago. Unlikely that there would be a spread here to America. Don't panic, they keep telling us. Don't panic. Don't worry, the disease won't come here to the United States. They've got it all under control, folks. It'll be quarantined, it will be contained, and it will be limited to just a few thousand people. Well, all of that is not true. It's now here. It's still coming across our border. And as I posed in the film I put out yesterday, The Truth About the Ebola Outbreak, how many more Thomas Eric Duncans are there? I mean, honestly, they have greater restrictions for pets, cats and dogs, literally coming into the United States from foreign countries that need to be tested and need to have vaccines before entering the United States than they do humans coming from the Ebola-affected hot zone from countries, namely like Sierra Leone, Guinea. Now the CDC, by the way, admitting that it is possible. It's a possibility. You know, they're in the land of unlikely before, then it becomes likely, and now it's a possibility that Ebola could in fact be airborne. Again, none of this was unlikely, it was likely. Just believe the opposite of what they tell you. None of it is possible, it's actually happening. Ebola is already airborne. Please watch my film for all the gross details unearthed that we uncovered with the production of the documentary. So again, all of this moving from the realm of unlikely events and just being possibilities to actually happening in real life. Two specific cases raising alarm right now. Of course, warnings coming from the World Health Organization that this could be unfolding into a nightmare scenario if it in fact enters the realm of possibility of being an airborne disease, with a nurse, the first European case known, reported by the media of a Spanish nurse having treated missionaries contracting the disease, wearing protective gear. Which raises the question, how would a nurse wearing protective gear, gloves, a mask, etc., contract the disease if it were not, in fact, airborne? In fact, the nurse was interviewed, and I'm paraphrasing a bit, but she says she has no idea how she contracted the disease. She was in one of the hazmat suits, or a variation of it, as she was treating these patients, these ministers that had recently been traveling to affected nations. There's also a case of an NBC cameraman who also contracted the disease, only on the job for 2 days in these affected nations, taking extreme precautions, washing his hands with chlorine vigorously, quoted saying that he was doing this, taking all necessary precautions, wearing protective gear, and now also coming down with the dreadful Ebola virus, this deadly disease with an extremely high fatality rate. Has no idea how he got it. You know, maybe instead of playing dumb, the President of the United States and the CDC should tell us the truth. They should tell us why they bought hundreds of thousands of hazmat suits prior to these events. They should tell us why they're telling us not to panic. They should tell us that instead of these events being unlikely, that they're actually likely. And maybe Americans should prepare themselves. You know, again, I asked the very important question. I've asked this for several months now, before the virus was maliciously transferred from these affected nations into the United States. Why is the President of the United States still keeping our borders open? Is he trying to spread the disease? Again, this either proves criminal intent to infect millions of Americans, or at the very least, it's gross negligence. And there's gross negligence, arguably, on every level revolving around these cases so far. You know, honestly, Hitler must be proud of the president, because this is the most devious way, this Ebola eugenics program, the most devious, politically correct, liberal, leftist agenda way to wipe out millions of people here in the United States. You know, I might just be one person out there screaming at the top of my lungs, but I find it quite serious when our borders are still open and the disease is still coming in. And now a disease they said that was once unlikely and that they said wasn't possible to be transmitted via airborne is now not just happening, not just likely, but is going airborne. I'm Christopher Greene. Get this video out everywhere, make it viral, hard hitting it in your face, and click the link below to support our sponsor.